we look back at our 40 years, we know that when those first people got together and said, we want to build a community health centre, they were building social fabric 40 years ago, and this organisation stayed true to that every day since. Notions of equality and equity and fairness are important concepts in building social fabric, in the way that spacing even threads in a tapestry is important to the strength and durability and beauty of that fabric. People are social beings, and when they're connected, they do better. The 1970s was a really exciting time in Australia. It was a time of rapid social change, and community health was part of that change, pioneered by the Gough Whitlam government.
Community health really came out of all this because he introduced the Australian Assistance Plan, and the wonderful social worker Marie Coleman headed it up. So it brought together the concepts of social planning and community development, and that was about community participation in decision making from the ground up.
The thing that sticks in my mind is how the community have been involved in the community health centre.
The board members or the committee members at that stage were all people living in the town who had a commitment to primary health care. We also had a couple of doctors who were on the board to start with to make sure we didn't employ any doctors and do them out of any business, but we had some really good community members who really pushed the idea of services in the community.
The volunteers were some of the most inspirational people that I've ever come across. Our early ones were our drivers, and then we had adult literacy at the centre, and we had volunteers there, and we had hydrotherapy volunteers from very early on.
I think at one stage we counted up, we had 124 volunteers. They went out and were our advocates in the community as well.
It was pioneering when it first started. It was really, we were at the base of everything. This were the starting blocks of this, what has become, and it was just a lot different. It was
a lot of rapping on the tables.
Yes.
Trying to get the bus even.
Yes.
You know, when we needed a bus to take
banging on doors to try and get people to listen to you, and this was an important thing to be.
We ran 10 women's days, a place full of daffodils and yellow balloons.
I think of the sun shining and everybody being energised, and interesting speakers we invited, including some comedians. It fed the community feeling, big time.
We had some really fabulous women's days, and our one-stop body shop.
People who queued, remember, waiting to get into the first one-stop body shop.
We had queues outside the door. It was extremely popular. We also ran meditation classes, and I got rung up at one stage and was reported to the health department for running meditation classes which would allow the devil to come into the minds of women in Sunbury. I had to write very nice letters explaining that it was very sensible meditation, and no, we weren't allowing the devil to come into anyone's mind.
Our auxiliary was started by 2 members of our committee of management, and the goal of the auxiliary was fundraising towards equipment for professionals to use, and also funding towards a permanent building.
After we'd had our babies, we did exercises with Frances Carstairs in this tiny little bungalow thing that was on Gap Road, where everyone had to step over us as they came in the door because the entry was so small. We knew that there was money that needed to be raised. We screen printed for the schools,
and we did a wedding. Remember the wedding?
Yes, we catered for a wedding.
We catered for a wedding.
And a 21st, I think we
catered
did
for. 21st.
I mean, in those days, you didn't have to worry about occupational health and safety, and you turned your kitchen into a whatever.
We made a lot of things at home.
Yeah.
We did lots of cabarets.
Yes.
Musical nights.
You sang too, didn't you?
Yes,
yeah.
I did.
When we're desperate, Coral would sing.
Later on, there was a second very active group, the over 50s, and that was born out of an exercise group conducted by one of our physiotherapists.
There's so many things that we did, but Throughout it all, it was always based on service to the community, enjoyment, having some fun and lightening the load for people. That some people carried a very big load, and that was our role. When needle exchanges first came in, there was a huge amount of community angst about it. The school council wrote, one of the law firms in the town wrote. They were all very much against having this terrible thing called a needle exchange program. But we withstood the criticism because we really felt that it was such a strong preventative health measure.
We talk about doing the right thing, not just the easy thing. And those struggles, I think, are reflected through the stories of all the staff throughout this place. There's a real commitment to do something that matters.
Fran was community health nurse, and she'd seen quite a few mothers with postnatal depression. So she put an ad in the paper one day and 35 women arrived. From that, they decided that they wanted a postnatal depression support group. And this was way back in the 80s, before any postnatal support was available. Fran decided I was the ideal person to facilitate this group. And that group of women probably taught me more than all the years I've spent at university. We had some amazing stories and some amazing success out of that.
And that reflection of what that early centre identified in the community has given rise to so many more of the services that we run today.
The fantastic thing about Sunbury Community Health is we have so many services under the one roof. So many of our clients find this place as a safe home away from home.
Social blokes group, that's awesome, I like it. Couldn't wish for a better bunch of blokes.
When you're looking at family services and children's services, you know, meeting their needs, not putting a program together because it works just for us.
It's the relationships they have with the family. My grandchildren, who are now 19 and 20, still have a lovely bond with their caregiver.
Parents are really proactive and knowing that they've got a community service like ours where they can just ring up and say, look, I'm worried about my child. We listen to them, we observe their child, and we make sure that they get the services that they need. But it's around reducing that social isolation and saying, no, you and your child are just as entitled to join any group, just like any other child and family are.
We're back to that sort of validation and belonging feeling, and a sense of being taken notice of.
A Sunbury Community Health Centre initiated the original walking group. The leaders were the physios from the community centre. We took over about 2 years later. They were finding they could be doing better with their time and asked us if we'd like to train, and it just grew from there.
And generally after our walks on Monday, Wednesday and Friday, we will have a cup of coffee and chat together.
Nearly everybody in the walking group is in another group. So they come along and people say, oh, would you like to come to View Club?
That's right, yes,
if you're not doing anything on Friday, or would you like...
Club or something.
Yeah,
you know.
and so they've joined a whole lot of other things that they probably would have been reluctant just to sort of pop along to.
The Sunbury Hydrotherapy Self-Help Group started because clients had been coming to the hydrotherapy for some time and they needed to move on but wanted to continue. So we trained some volunteers as leaders for the self-help groups. So these people that were possibly sort of a bit isolated have now got a group that they can call their own.
I don't know what I'd do if I didn't have
No, I'd miss it.
on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Oh no, and you need that structure in your life.
It increases your fitness, but it increases your general health because you make friendships. So you're going out a lot more and you're enjoying life a lot more.
people who had lived in Sunbury when Sunbury was very tiny and they were getting on in years, but also the incoming community, the blow-ins we used to be called, were starting to age as well. And there was a huge need, and the Lions opened their care home in Timmins Street.
And it was the donation from the people in Sunbury that got this hostel. It was donated.
Yeah, it was all voluntary.
Yeah. They worked incredibly hard to create something that Sunbury needed. It was our honour and privilege to be asked to take over management of the aged care facility and those units on behalf of the people of Sunbury. So we're very proud that 5 years ago we took on that responsibility.
But they're the most vulnerable people in our society, I think, and they have made a lot of sacrifices down the road. So I think it's time that we look after them and give something back to the community.
Before I come here, I come from Mount Royal, Royal Melbourne Hospital, Mount Royal, and they give me to Easter, the first Easter, and that was it. And they said to me, don't come back, there's nothing we can do for you. And the Lions took me on. The daughters put me paintings on the wall from home. When I come here, Marilyn seen them, and she got me to start a class. When Marilyn asked me would I take up art, this was in 2014, I said yeah, but not to 2015. I'm not well enough. Well, 2 months later I was into it because it got me going, and that's what art means to me and everybody. I've got a saying, you can paint your own world. With art you can paint your own world and it keeps you going.
The heart of this organisation comes from the heart and the spirit of our people, and that passionate engagement has been there from the beginning, and it's something we celebrate today and something we'll carry into the future.
People here care about what they're doing, care about being supportive, love what they're doing, which makes it a really great place to work, and you feel like, you know, hey, maybe we are making a difference.
And it's that sense that you have ownership, I think, over the service too. You know, you contribute.
It's about being able to walk away and knowing that I've left a part of me behind to make someone smile.
It's fantastic because we all have the same idea about the community of Sunbury. We're all looking to make the community resilient and sustainable and connected. That's what I love about Sunbury Community Health. They get that, they do that in the practices, and we're really thrilled to be associated with that.
This centre is a very happening place. We kind of felt it was in the beginning. In fact, we had tickets on ourselves actually. But I think that's still there. You know, I don't think there'd be any danger of it ever being taken away from Sunbury or anything like that. The opposite is happening.
Because we've stuck to our knitting, we know what we do and what we do well, and we're going to continue doing that.
Sunbury Community Health's like a hub for everyone to turn to, no matter what the issue, whether it be for the young, for the old, for those that have a disability. They can walk through the door, see a smiling face, and know that they'll get some form of answer, whether it be us that provides the help or we link them in with local community services. I think that no matter who you are, where you're from, we'll always point you in the right direction.
We're committed to being that organisation for the entire community, but with a special emphasis on those who need us most.